Over the last couple of weeks, we've gotten and dove into some of the basic teachings that Jesus shared with us around the whole thing about Easter. And the craziest thing has been happening to me in that I've been going back and I've been going back. There's been something that's been, speaking of tapping me on the shoulders, tapping me on the shoulders and saying, keep going back to there, keep going back there, keep going back there. And what's happened is there has been a handful of scriptures that have come to me that I've heard my entire life. And all of a sudden, it was like I was looking at them and I was like, this is crazy that you could have been studying these handful of scriptures your entire life and have never put them together in such a way that just was like one of those aha moments where you're like, oh my God, like, really? And it's not necessarily because they were new. It's just because it finally went, wow, like the most simple, basic instructions sometimes are the ones that we need to return to. And that's what I want to talk about this morning. And what's funny is that when we look at these messages that I'm about to share with you, I guarantee you've heard them all. There's nothing in here, I promise you have not heard, or I would be surprised, let's put it that way. Because it's not hidden. It's not like these things were hidden and we didn't know they were there. We were well aware of the fact that these messages were here because they were repeated over and over and over again. And yet, we miss it, right? We wind up missing it. And it's not because these messages are necessarily complicated, per se. They don't always get our attention. And why? Because at a certain point in time, once you hear a message over and over and over again, what happens? We get numb and we quit listening. And yet, it doesn't take away the impact or the effectiveness of the message, right? And when I talk about these messages, just understand something. My experience has been these aren't just suggestions, they're not just nice ideas, that they actually were guiding us to something. If we were listening. And if we wanted to pay attention, these weren't mistakes. They weren't written down incorrectly. Actually, they were written down very correctly. And so, yet, often what happens is we treat them just like, oh, that's nice. That's nice. And so, as we begin to look at these different lessons, I'm just going to share with you that there's a way, an energy that they'll give off. And I'm going to really invite you in to experiencing them possibly from a different set of eyes, a different set of ears, a different way of hearing them, a different heart, if you will. So the first one, pretty basic, right? Isn't this what I talked about all last week? Seek ye first the kingdom of God. I don't know about you, but to me that's pretty fundamental. What's the very first thing, according to this message, we should be doing? Seeking the kingdom of God. So I don't think it could be more clear than that. Now, we could sit here and have a debate about what that means, for sure, right? And I'm sure if I were to go, so what do you think the kingdom of God is? What do you think the kingdom of God? What do you think? And it's like everybody would have a different opinion, but what is undisputable, undeniable, is telling us that's the first thing you should be checking out. That's the first thing that you should be looking at. But if we're honest, most of us don't do that. And was the message from last week I spent some time on. It's like the second thing or the third thing or the fourth thing, or honestly, how many people have had this experience when everything stops working? That's when I'm going to start to pay attention. And we do it after we're exhausted. We're after all of our coping mechanisms and everything that we've tried in life. And sometimes this often looks like when you're on your hands and knees and it's like, please God, help. It can look something like that. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. There's no judgment. I have personally been there. I've been on my hands and my knees saying, please God, please God, please God. So I understand it. And I guess what this makes me think of is, yeah, but why? Do we always have to be on our hands and knees in order for us to want to have this connection and this relationship with God? Do we have to? Does it have to be that extreme in our lives before we start paying attention? And I just thought, wow, it's kind of like, you surrender. It's like, all right, God, you're up. I've tried everything else. I failed. I guess I'll kind of go see what this whole God thing is about. It's like, wow, wow, really, Mike? And it's like, yeah, really, because sometimes that's what we all have to experience, right? Not all of us, but many of us have been there. It's kind of like God's the backup plan, right? Instead of like, yeah, you might want to make that the first plan for sure. It's kind of ridiculous. And because if you think about it, the instruction clearly isn't seek eventually. That's not what this says. It says, seek ye first the kingdom of God. But I think what happens is, honestly, some of the language that's used in this kind of freaks some of us out. It's like, seek ye first the kingdom. It's like, and it's like, yeah, for some people. And yet some from very traditional backgrounds at best are like, oh, that's okay. But I mean, really, really, like, do we have to really use that language, right? But what it really is getting to is the heart of it. The message is, do this before the panic. Do this before overthinking or the overwhelm. Before we try to absolutely control everything, which is our human experience of, I got to control it all. I can control this. I can control everything, right? And then, in a sense, what's happening is we're making ourselves God because we try to control everything instead of understanding that you are never alone. You are constantly in a partnership with God. You have got a legion of support and angels and all other kinds of help that's standing right over your shoulder that you are completely 100% disconnected from until you ask. Did you know that? Did you know that right behind you, right in this moment, right here, right now, you've got an entire army of help and support waiting for you just to go, hey, I need your help. But they're not going to show up if you don't ask. And this isn't because they want you to feel bad or you can't do anything without us or any. No, get rid of all of that garbage that was put in your head by fundamentalism. It's not because I want to prove to you how weak and how vulnerable you are, so let me bring you to your knees before you start begging me to show up. That is not what it's about. Because of who and what you are, what's happening is you are given an opportunity to connect with something that does nothing more than loves you, supports you, and wants the best for you. And when I tell you it's a legion, I mean it's a legion, which means there's a lot of them that can help you. But they're not going to do that unless you ask for it. You don't have to beg for it. You don't have to say, I'm sorry. You don't have to do any of the traditional stuff. It's just, hey, I just could use some help here. That would be really great. And then all of a sudden, whoosh, it shows up, right? When we pause and we go inward. Not because necessarily life is easy, but it's because this is where clarity is. In his book, Man's Search for Meaning, anybody ever read that one? Yeah, Viktor Frankl, the Holocaust survivor, the psychiatrist. He lived through it, one of the darkest periods in human history. And in the middle of that suffering, he made the simple observation that has outlived almost everything else from that time. And here's what he said. Everything can be taken from a man, everything can be taken from a man but one thing. The last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. You can take everything away from me. You can take all my toys, all my bells, all my whistles. You can take it all away from me. But the thing that you cannot take away from me, and this is what he observed over and over and over again as he was in the concentration camps. He watched person after person after person die. The majority of them did. But there were a handful, just a handful that didn't. And you know what the difference was? Their attitude. Their attitude. He could almost tell within a couple of days who was going to make it and who wasn't. And it came down to choice, and it came down to attitude. And think about that. In a place where everything else has been stripped away from you, everything. He turned where? Not out here. He went zhunk. In other words, he kind of gave us another clue about seek ye first the kingdom of heaven. Go inside, go inside, go inside. He turned inward. He sought something deeper than the circumstances. He found meaning, not outside. It was all inside. That's what it means to seek first, not when it's convenient, but when it's necessary, right? So now we move into the second instruction. Now, at first glance, again, basic, simple stuff, Mike. Come on. Really? Seek and you shall find, knock and the door will be open. Well, we're seeking a lot here in these first two little instructions, aren't we? And it's almost too simple. It's like one of those phrases we've heard over and over and over again that we stop hearing it. But here's the part about this that we miss. This is not a passive statement. This is not something that you hear and go, oh, that's nice. It's not saying, sit here, hope for the best, and something may show up. No. It's saying, seek. It's saying, engage. It's saying, move. It's saying, participate. I think often in our own spiritual journey, what happens is we hear this stuff, and then we just sit there and go, okay, God, what do you got? And that's it. And it's like, no, folks, this is a participation sport, in case you haven't realized that. I don't know how many of you sat around when you first started getting exposed to this and you thought, well, I'll show up on Sunday mornings and that'll be good for me. That'll be okay. That's enough. And if I just sit there and do that, then I'll consider it done. And it's like, no, 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 no. It's an engagement. You're actually doing something. You're participating, right? But here's the misunderstanding is that people don't actually seek. They wish, they hope, things will change. They'll think about what they want. They'll talk about it. They pray about it sometimes. But seeking, guess what? That's going to require your intention. That's going to require even more your attention. That requires a willingness to actually look and do something. Instead of looking at God and going, please fix me, please fix me, please fix me, please fix me, which is what we have a tendency to do. And I think it's one of the biggest fallacies about this whole engagement with God, is that we think we're going to ask God and say, here, fix everything, and God's going to wave this magical wand, and you're going to be all better. My observation has been for me personally, that when I did that, nothing happened. For me, I'm not denying there may not be miracles that happen and stuff like that, but my own journey required me to actually roll up my sleeves and get dirty before things really started to change in my life. And believe me when I tell you, if I were to count the number of prayers that sounded like this, please help me, please help me, please help me, please help me, I would be a multimillionaire. Seriously. Because that's what I was taught. That's what I thought needed to happen. Well, I'm just not praying good enough. I'm not saying the right words. I'm not doing the right things. Right? And as a result of it, I just kept praying. I kept praying. I kept praying. I kept praying. And guess what? Nothing changed. Nothing changed. Nothing changed. Well, nothing changed. And then all of a sudden, when I started realizing, oh, you mean I have to do something more than pray? Yes. You mean I got to roll up my sleeves and get dirty? Yes. You mean I need to look at my own crap? Yes, you do. Does that mean we need to live in it for the next 20 years? No. Nobody ever said that. Nobody ever said that. Do you need to look at the mirror honestly and go, hey, what about this thing over here that I've been ignoring for the last 20 years? Do you need to do that? Yes. Is it going to go away if you keep ignoring it? No. Probably not. How long has it been going on for now? 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years? I don't know. We think that this thing can't change, but often what is required is our own engagement, right? Seeking means you're no longer waiting for life to hand you answers. You're becoming somebody who's willing to discover them. Oh, so that's what it's about. Yes, because when you honestly ask, guess what shows up? The answers. But you have to be willing to slow down enough to receive them. You cannot ask for help and receive it. It's not the way it works. It's not. You're going to receive it. The question is, are you slowing down enough to hear what may be being said to you? That's the trick. That's the trick. But it always shows up. It's the second you ask that because of who and what you are, you're going to receive it. Done. Has to. It cannot not show up. It has to show up. But it does mean maybe asking better questions. It does mean getting honest about what's going on inside of you. You mean I can't ignore this firestorm that's going on inside of me? This upset, this anger, this rage, this trauma? I can't ignore that? No. Sorry. I wish it was different. But that's not the case, right? It means being willing to notice your patterns instead of just repeating them. You mean I can't keep living the same way I've been living for the last 20 years and expect something to change? Well, you can expect it to change, but is it going to change? Probably not, right? But here's the truth. As you seek, you will always find something. The question is, what are you seeking? If you seek problems, guess what? You'll find more problems. But if you seek validation, well, you'll chase that forever. If you seek what's wrong, your mind will happily deliver a full report. So you want to find out what's wrong, and you go, hey, show me what's wrong, God. Believe me, you'll get a list long enough to keep you busy, right? But here's the good news. When you seek the truth, or you seek love, or you seek happiness, then guess what? Starts to show up. If you begin to seek understanding, if you begin to seek, oh, I don't know, how about the presence of God? You mean I could really seek the presence of God to hang out with me 24/7 and be with me all the time, and I could have the experience of living like that? Yeah. And we've been told that time after time after time again. Jesus spent his whole life talking about that specific thing, right? Some of us are really incredible at our seeking. We're really, really good at seeking, but we don't admit what we've been seeking. Because often the case is we seek, distraction, sometimes comfort, sometimes avoiding the very thing that we would actually set us free. And we're really good at it. We're really good at it, actually. But what's behind seek and ye shall find is not a reward system. That's not the point of this whole thing. It's actually why the additional part of knock and the door will be open is that it's an actual law. It's telling you that your attention has direction. I'm going to pay attention to this. And direction then produces the experience. Oh, so if I want to have that experience with God and I give that some attention, then all of a sudden I'll start to have that experience. That's how it's working. Yes. Because whatever you're paying attention to, whatever you give your attention to, you begin to experience more of it. Anybody ever hear that one before? Yeah, where attention goes, right? So if you turn towards fear, guess what? More fear shows up. If you turn towards peace. If you turn inward towards God, guess what? You'll discover the truth, which is it's been there the entire time. You mean God never left? Nope, never. That's not the way it works, right? And this is where it gets interesting because once you begin the process of seeking, you'll eventually run into something very, very unexpected. And that is you realize that what you've been looking for is never out there. It's not. So it's here. Every single time. It's here. So the first two instructions, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, seek and you will find, a lot of seeking going on, right? But then the question is, well, where the seeking? Where do I do that? And this is where the next instruction comes from. The kingdom of heaven is within you. Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven is within me. Pretty simple, right? We've all heard this a million times, right? But here's where it gets uncomfortable, because seeking is one thing. That's the easy part. When you're told to look, where you're told to look is something completely different. Because why? Guess what? It's no longer outside of you. It's no longer where you can blame somebody else for not finding it, because you've been told, where is it? Here. Which means not the next achievement, not fixing your partner, not finally getting your life perfectly organized. So in other words, oh man, I got to do all this other stuff before I can actually land on this thing. No, you don't. Why? Because what you're looking for is right there. It's within you. And that's where most people quietly exit the conversation. You mean I actually got to look inside of myself? I got to look in here? Do you know what's in here? And believe me, as somebody who's gone through this process, I do know what's in there. And yeah, it may take you a minute or two to sort some things out, But if you begin this process of going within, what you'll start to do is you'll start cleaning out the closets that haven't been cleaned out before. How many people know what I'm talking about? Yeah, lots of hands. Yeah. You start cleaning out those dirty closets. You start looking at stuff you never wanted to look at. You start processing stuff you never wanted to process before. And what you'll understand, what you'll start to learn is that by you being in partnership actually with God, now it's like I've got this legion, this army I'm talking about is standing behind me. Now let's go clean out these closets. Will you be with me? And the army is fully in. The legion is in with you. Yeah, giddy up, let's go. That's what it feels like. That's what I hear. Giddy up, let's go, Mike. Let's roll up our sleeves. We're here. We got your back. And when you know that, when you feel that, I'm telling you, it is like an experience that is like none other. When you know that Spirit is standing right behind you, no matter what mess you think that's going on in your life, what you will know is that you're not alone, you've got help, you've got support. It's a whole different perspective. It's a whole way of looking at issues. It's a whole way of dealing with things because now all of a sudden you don't feel like you're so alone, which often when this work comes up, what I'm talking about can feel very, very, very lonely. It can feel lonely. But when all of a sudden you realize you've got this going on, it's like, oh, okay. When that happens, then you don't start blaming people and situations and everything. You don't start looking outside of yourself anymore. You don't. You go here. Because you can't say, well, I would feel peace if they would just do this. Not exactly the way it works. Truth is, the peace is already there. It is. The issue about what I'm talking about is not access. Accessing this isn't a problem. It's attention. Did you hear that? Access is the problem. We often think, well, if I could just have this experience, then it would be great. It's attention. How much time are you giving it? How much time? To illustrate this point, I'm bringing up the story of the woman at the well where Jesus meets the Samaritan woman at the well. And technically, if you read the story, they shouldn't have even have been talking culturally, but they do. And he asks her for water. And then what he does is he flips it. And he says to her, if you knew who was speaking to you, you would have asked me and I would have given you living water. And so they go back and forth because she is not sure what he's talking about. It's like, what? The living water? What are you talking about? Because she's thinking about physical water, right? But he's pointing to something way deeper. Finally, he says, the water I give you will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life. I just imagine this conversation and her looking at him like, dude, what are you on? Seriously. But Jesus is going way deeper. So metaphysically, the woman is what? She's the human soul. She's the one that's searching. She's the one that's tired. She's the one that's living from external conditions, right? What is the well? The well, it represents the outer world. It's where we keep going back thinking, this will satisfy me. If I just keep doing more, if I keep getting more, if I keep getting more toys, if I keep making more money, if I keep doing these things externally, it will satisfy me. And I don't know about you, but I've accomplished a few things in my life. And when I get them, that experience may last for a day or two, and then it's on to the next thing, right? Of course, Jesus represents Christ consciousness, and the living water is the inner. The living water comes from within you. That's where the living water is coming to. And so she came to the well looking for something external and left realizing that what she was really looking for was already available within her. A little bit of a different spin to that story that we've heard so many times. Fillmore once said, the kingdom of heaven is not a place, but a state of consciousness. Wait a minute, so you mean to tell me then I don't have to die in order to experience the kingdom of heaven? That's exactly what Fillmore said. So in other words, that experience can happen to you right here, right now. And to me, the proof of that is when we think about states of consciousness, heaven or hell. I've known a handful of people in my life who I could not imagine being in a worse spot. In other words, they created their own hell based on the choices that they made in their life, right? And so this idea of kingdom of heaven isn't something that's outside of you or something you achieve someday. It's something that's happening and has the potential to happen right here. And so now We've got the seeking, we've got this thing that's within, but now the question is, well, how do we go within? And again, we're going to bring up a very, very simple instruction. Be still. Be still and know that I'm God. Be still. That's how you do this. And this is where everything falls apart for most of us, because the first three, they sound nice. This one actually requires something. It requires you to do something. What is it that it requires? Something we all hate to do. Be still. Turn off your phone, turn off your television, turn off your radio, set the newspaper down, set your phone down, set your computer down, shut it all off, and be still. Be still, whatever that means for you. For some, yeah, sitting in a chair meditating. For some, it's going for a walk out in nature. For some, go hug a tree. Whatever it is for you. Maybe for some it's painting. Maybe for some it's music. Maybe it's whatever it may be. But be still. And in this world that's addicted to noise, stimulation, distraction, no, it's saying be still. And not just physically, mentally, emotionally, internally. Because here's the truth. If you never get still, the truth is you're never going to know. Spirit doesn't scream. Spirit doesn't yell. Spirit doesn't make demands. That's not how it works. Spirit is quiet. The nudges that I'm talking to happen to you when you're quiet, when you're still. You're just waking up. You're going for a walk. You're quiet. And then all of a sudden you get these nudges, right? So here's the flow. Seek, look within, and then get still. And if you can do those three things, those four things, then that gives you a beautiful, beautiful way to start. And I don't know about you, but I've heard these over and over and over again. But when I put the three of them together, there was like this, oh, I get it. I can see this now. And then all of a sudden, it's like, wow, why could I never see these like I am now? And so my hope and prayer, and guys, I went way too long in my talk today, sorry. So we're not going to be able to do a meditation, which I normally do. My hope and prayer for you is that you're able to take anything that I shared with you, whether it's seek ye first the kingdom of God. So in other words, what does that mean? Understand you've got something inside of you that's amazing, that's incredible. And when we came down into this earth, we were told to ignore it. And so guess what we did? We just followed the pattern because everybody else told us to ignore it. Why? Because we watched our parents and our grandparents, and we watched society, and we watched our teachers, and we watched our preachers, and everybody there is telling you, look outside of yourself. All the answers that you need are outside of yourself. And we followed along. And now what we're doing is say, hey, don't do that anymore. Go within. Go within. And then it gave you a promise. It said, seek and ye shall find. In other words, if you give enough attention to this thing is going to come alive. It's going to grow. It's like a seed that you're planting. And all of a sudden, and I will tell you this as somebody that has played with this and has experienced it, this seed is something that's real. I just wish, my hope and prayers for each and every one of you is to experience this. This thing is real. It's not this. It's not. It's an experience where you're connecting with something that is so deep and so real and so alive, it becomes a part of you. It's like I wake up every morning and here's what it feels like. I'm dancing. I mean that sincerely. I feel like I've got this part of me that I'm dancing with that is incredibly beautiful. And it's real. It's not just a bunch of words. I know we say a lot of words here, but for me, it's not the words, it's the experience. And so my invitation to you is if you're not having this experience, join me. And again, it'll look a little bit different for each and every one of you. I don't know what it's going to look like for you. Maybe it is meditation. Maybe it is nature. Maybe it is painting. Maybe it is music. Maybe it is dancing. What is it for you that connects you with that part of you that makes you go, oh, there you are? You know what the thing is? Every single one of you know exactly what I'm talking about right now. You do because you've done it. Even if it's just for a brief moment, you know the part of you that connects with something that's a little bit more than this physical reality. Each one of you have had that experience. Every single one of you, even if it's just for a fleeting moment, it's there. But what I'm here to tell you and remind you is that if you will blow a little bit of air towards it, in other words, if you will pay a little bit of attention to it, it will start to grow. That flame in you, that inner Christ consciousness you hear us talk about, forget the fancy words, it doesn't matter. What matters is this part of you that will come alive if you will just give it a little bit of attention, if you'll just spend time with it. And I promise you, it will grow. It will grow. It will grow. It will grow. And the next thing you know, you're going to wake up and you're going to feel like you're dancing again. And it'll be the most beautiful dance you've ever had. And it'll be something that you're so grateful for because finally, you've made it home. Everything else is just a distraction. You haven't done anything wrong. There's some of you that are carrying some big guilt with you. Let it go. I don't know why, but on a soul level, you decided to go through what you went through. And you know what? It was perfect. You didn't screw anything up. Nothing. You needed to learn something. Okay, cool. I learned it. Can I move on now? Yes. You mean I don't have to sit here in guilt for the next 40 years? No. No. Forgive yourself. Really forgive yourself. Honestly. But then, and learn the lesson. Whatever the lesson is you needed to learn, learn it. Like, spend some time with it. Sit down with it. What is it that I learned when I went through this mess? Oh, I learned this. Cool. Awesome. Give yourself an A, put a star on your forehead, and consider it done. That's all you need. That's it. God's not asking you, trust me, to sit there for the next 20 years and relive it over and over and over again and then create your own hell because of a mistake that you made. And I would argue it may not even have been a mistake. It's what you needed to learn on a deeper level. Learn the lesson. Move on. Get on with it. Live your life. Start the dance. Start your own dance that will become so sacred to you, and you'll be so grateful. Having said that, thanks for coming this morning. I hope you can take away a little bit of something that touched you. That's my hope and prayer. Because we're all in this together, folks. Each and every one of us. You're doing an amazing job. And I don't care if you're here for the first time or the 210th time. You're doing an amazing job. Each and every one of you. Every single one of you is doing an amazing job. We're grateful you're here. We're grateful to have you in our community. Thank you for creating this experience this morning. I'm genuinely touched, honored, and grateful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. God bless. Namaste and Namaste. Thank you.